Welcome to your comprehensive interactive study breakdown of Charles Dickens's Great Expectations. This novel is a Bill Dunks roman, tracing Pip's moral and psychological growth from an impoverished orphan to a gentleman. Through a retrospective narrative, the older, wiser Pip judges his younger self's mistakes. We'll explore Dickens's powerful social satire, his use of Gothic elements, and how settings like the misty marshes and decaying Satis house reflect characters in estates. By the end, you'll be ready to analyze key themes and exam strategies. Let's map out the core elements of Great Expectations. The Bill Dunks roman structure follows Pip's formative years, while the retrospective narrative allows Dickens to highlight Pip's mistakes and growth. Social satire exposes the absurdity of Victorian class obsession, and Gothic elements create an atmosphere of fear and decay. Pathetic fallacy uses weather and settings to mirror Pip's emotions, the misty marshes symbolize his confusion, and the crumbling Satis house represents moral stagnation. Turning to our core study notes, Pip begins as a kind-hearted orphan but becomes ashamed of his humble origins after meeting the beautiful but cruel Estella. He believes Miss Havisham is his benefactor, but the shocking revelation, anagnorisis, that Magwitch, the convict, is his true benefactor forces Pip to confront his snobbery. Through protecting Magwitch, Pip learns that moral worth matters more than social class, achieving redemption by the novel's end. The novel is divided into 3 volumes, each marking a stage in Pip's development. Volume I establishes Pip's humble beginnings and his encounters with the convict Magwitch and the eccentric Miss Havisham. Volume 2 shows Pip in London, wasting his newfound wealth and treating his loyal brother-in-law Joe with disdain. The climax comes when Magwitch reveals himself as Pip's benefactor. Volume 3 traces Pip's moral awakening. He helps Magwitch escape, falls ill, and is nursed back to health by Joe, ultimately learning that true gentility comes from character, not money. Let's work through a typical exam question. To secure full marks, first identify the settings, the Kent marshes and Satis house. Then explain their symbolic meaning. The marshes represent Pip's initial fear and moral confusion, while Satis house symbolizes decay and the destructive nature of class obsession. Finally, link these to Pip's emotional journey, his shame, his longing for Estella, and his eventual realization of his own snobbery. Always use key terms like a pathetic fallacy and Gothics to impress examiners. Watch out for common pitfalls. First, always integrate literary terms, such as a Bill Dunks roman for the structure, anagnorisis for Pip's realization, and a retrospective narrative for the storytelling perspective. Second, remember that the narrator is the older Pip looking back with regret, so analyze his judgment of his younger self. Third, don't forget the social satire. Dickens criticizes the unjust class system and the harsh penal institutions of Victorian England. Including these contextual points will elevate your analysis. To wrap up, remember that Great Expectations is a Bill Dunks roman told from a retrospective point of view. Dickens uses social satire to expose the flaws of Victorian society. Key symbols like the marshes and Satis house reflect Pip's internal state. The central arc is Pip's journey from shame and snobbery to moral redemption. Use precise terminology and link every technique to character and theme to ace your exam. Good luck!